Alright, hi everyone, Tim here, stepping in for what might be our last video I think. Was just going to do a quick reminder. Today's video is going to be about repotting. Now I've actually picked out a pot and a plant that I am willing to risk it with, and I'm going to go through the process. But just a reminder for everybody, you do not have to repot your plants that you've got for the challenge. The pot is not going to be part of the judging, so if you would prefer not to risk, because this is not the best time traditionally to be repotting anything, if you do not want to risk that, you don't have to. Repotting is not part of, but we thought we'd at least do it for the challenge and the education side of things. But yeah, make sure that you don't repot unless you really want to, and you're taking a risk that might not survive. So I'm happy to do that with this one today, and we'll see how we go. So just quickly, first of all, we've got I've gathered my gear. So I've just got a few of the simple things that I might need. My wire, bit of mesh, pliers and wire cutters. I've got root pruners, although I'm not planning to do too much root pruning today. Chopstick, root rake. We'll see how we go. This is the plant that I'm planning to have a go at, and the interesting thing about this plant is that I am thinking about changing the angle. So the last little while it's been growing, I've actually had it propped up on something else, and I'm thinking about something more like that as the angle. So we'll see whether I'm able to make that happen in the repotting process today. So I'm going to hand over the camera to my helper and we'll get started. So I'll just take all this off for the moment, because the first bit's the messy part. Grab pot, and so first thing we're going to do is just loosen all of that off. Now this is one that I slip potted back at the beginning of January, very early in the challenge, so it hasn't had a lot of time in the pot, which is why this is taking a little bit of a risk. So we'll just have to see how we go. But fair bit of potting mix left in the bottom of that, but I can actually see roots have come right out to the edge. So we repotted from a 140ml pot into a 200ml pot, and that's a fair bit of root in there, especially around the edge. It hasn't come down all that far, so I'm going to grab my root rake. We're just going to take some of the bottom off that, because I know that the pot that I'm thinking of putting this into is not as deep as the one that I had. So it certainly hasn't gone down all that much. Just a bit of a gentle, almost seems like it hasn't gone down much further than what the original 140ml pot was. But it's certainly gone out sideways. Looks pretty healthy. Roots look good. I might just prune off just a minimal amount of these really long ones, because I know that I'm not going to need those. Quite thick, some of them. So just take the ones that are going a long way down. And then what I want to do with this one is I do want to see where the top has got to, because I sort of covered that up. Oops, let go. Covered that up when I repotted earlier in the year, and I want to get back down to that spot again at this stage. Let's see if I can find those top roots. Beautiful day here in Tassie today. The sun has been out. A little bit of a breeze up at the moment, but for us temperatures have been beautiful. this is the spot that I got to last time around and was a bit concerned. There's some funny looking, if you can see just in here, there's some funny looking roots in there. And I'm not really sure what I might do with those. Those can be a bit of a challenge. Sometimes some gnarly roots can sort of be a bit of interest, but if they're a bit too gnarly or they're just going in the wrong direction, then they don't really add anything to what you're trying to do with the tree. So you just want to be careful about which ones you decide to pick. Some people think anything that's weird is interesting, but it's not necessarily the case. So some of those are going in directions that I don't want them to go. So I'm planning to repot about there. That's going to be interesting. So I need to take more off the top on this side. I need to come down significantly on this side here, otherwise it's not going to look right when I put it in at that new angle. We've got some quite significant roots there. Probably not going to do as much as what I should do if this was the best time to repot today. I think I might just avoid some of it again, because there's some quite significant roots in there. That should probably have some more work done and find out what they're actually doing. There seems to be quite a large one here that's actually rotating back in underneath, and those are the sorts of things that if you're doing a proper repot, you want to try and get to those. But certainly for today, some of these big ones on the top here I might need to take off without taking too much, because they are not going to make it easy to change that angle and put it on a new angle in the pot. I'll take a little bit off this side here so that I can keep it at that new angle. And again, I am running a risk with this one. It is possible that doing this much work at this time of year, especially here in Tassie, if it starts to get a bit cold soon, might cause me some issues with this tree, but it's not actually my favourite at the moment, so I'm willing to take the risk. It might still be alive in a week for the challenge if I do decide to use it. Otherwise, I'm willing to sacrifice it for today. So again, I'm not going to be able to do anywhere near as much root work as I probably would otherwise, but I am going to take a couple of larger ones out on the top here, which are going to get in the way of being able to change that angle. That one there, coming out in the wrong spot. So today might be a little bit of a halfway house. I think we'll sort of see where we might get to. That one. That one was quite large, probably bigger than what I thought it was. Alright, so my aim at the moment is trying to get it down a little bit on this side here so that I can get it into a new pot a little bit more that way. So while I've got this underneath, I'll just rough the edges a little bit more. Now again, I am not an expert, so you will find far better repotting videos online. There are guys doing repottings all over the place. Have a look online, find some good repotting videos. But this is a bit of an amateur having a crack at it, like most of us are in the bonsai beginners, so If you want to know what it looks like when it's not a professional, then it's something more like this. So I'm trying to come down, trying to get a little bit more of that surface root through here, trying to expose a bit more of what I've got at the top. And then trying to make sure that any roots that I am leaving are moving outwards. So Nigel Saunders, KW Bonsai, the bonsai zone, make sure that all his roots are moving outwards. Again, I'm doing this quite fast. I don't want the video to be an hour long. So you can watch videos with a much better repotting technique, but just, I guess, to watch someone who's not done a lot of it. I think I'm actually going to bite the bullet on that one. It's not going in a position that I would like. I really should have my knob cutters. But we will remove that. And give some room for some other roots to grow. So again, not sure what that has done. We'll just have to wait and see. But it has significantly sort of tidied up some of that top section there. But you always take a risk when you take off a large root like that one. So you do either have to not be worried about it, or you've got to think very carefully about where it might be feeding elsewhere in the tree. So that's probably about all that I'm willing to try at the moment. Pot that I've decided to use, I wanted to have something that gives us a bit of size, so I'll put this one in this pot here. Could probably take a little bit more off just those sides that are going to be the two sides, so a little bit more off here. Turn it round and a little bit more off the back. And probably just try and get a little bit more off the bottom, because it seemed like it was going to be a bit high. Okay, so the pot that I've got, it's actually a plastic replica picked up from somewhere. Going to put some mesh in the bottom of the pot, hold it in. There are all sorts of ways that you can hold your mesh in. With mine today, I'm literally just going to do just a pin type method, just through two of the holes in the mesh. Try and get your pin about the same width as the hole, and then underneath I'm just going to bend those over. There are other more complicated ways of doing that, but for today that's nice and simple. Second one, same Same sort of thing. Line it up. Made that one a little bit short, potentially, but it will still do the trick. Through the holes in the mesh. Because once the soil's in, that will all stay together fairly well, as long as there's something holding it. Okay, I am going to try tie down today. I don't always. If you watch Nigel Saunders, he never ties down his trees in his pots, but just so that we can see it happen. If you have holes in your pot for tie downs, from what I've seen, you line up your ties, your wire with the holes, and thread it through so that it sits there. Let them sit over the edge for later on. Now I know that this root ball isn't going to go all the way to the other end of the pot, so I'm going to use the middle. I've actually created some extra holes on this pot. I'm going to use the middle ones with this one because my root ball doesn't extend all the way to the end of the pot. So I'm trying to get a pot that gives me a bit more room for growth. The tree could probably go in a slightly smaller pot than this one, but I still want it to be able to grow a bit, so wires are there ready. Missed a step. So going to put a layer of drainage in the bottom. So what I'm using here, my own budget variety. This is clay-based cat litter that I've screened and sieved, and it provides drainage, but it also holds moisture in the actual clay itself. So it means that you're not just completely draining out the bottom. For the rest, I'm going to use, as I used last time, my Bunnings succulent and cacti mix. Now, there's a bit of debate with this one last time, but the succulent mix doesn't have any particular chemicals or anything in it that are going to affect the tree. The main thing with a succulent mix is it's got plenty of drainage. So this tree was sitting at that kind of angle, and now that I put it in the pot, we're going to, it's still very high, so that's a bit of a problem. We're going to have trouble getting that to go in, so we're going to have to bite the bullet. So this is where I'm going to take a couple more risks. Like I say, I'm willing to sacrifice this tree just to be able to show the process. For today, I might lose it. So if you do this kind of work at the wrong time of year, you do run the risk of losing your tree. I have read somewhere, I did post that natives can be repotted in autumn. So our native trees are a little bit different to things like deciduous and those sorts of trees that are sort of traditional bonsai. So I'm going to test that out. We'll see how we go. Taking a bit more off the bottom, with the aim of getting it into this pot a little bit more comfortably. Alright, so I'm going to lift up a little bit on that far side. It's still Still quite high in the pot, but that might be alright. And rookie mistake, I have made my wires too short. So, can sometimes happen when you are rushing and haven't done a lot of. So, I actually said in the video we did last weekend that I haven't done a lot of repotting into bonsai pots, because most of my trees I'm actually just letting grow. I just want them to get healthy. Most of them are growing in black pots. That root's actually cut off already, so there's no point keeping that one long. This one might be a bit of interest at the front. So what I'm actually going to do then, I think I might take these wires out. All you would normally do if you're going to wire your tree in, and like I said, there are bonsai practitioners like Nigel Saunders, you need these longer. You just wrap them over the top, cross them over, and then twist. And so then use a set of pliers just to gently pull and twist until you get them tightened around your root ball. And once they're tightened around the root ball, just try and get your roots all going in the directions that you want. Once it's tightened around the root ball, it keeps it firmly in the pot. But if you are careful with your pot, I'm just going to pull these out. If you are careful with your pot and you don't move it around much, and Nigel Saunders will often put a rock or two on top, you can get your tree to survive. So, rookie mistake there. I'm not going to take ages and ages of your time redoing that. We will cut our losses and see where we go. Now, I think that's probably still sitting a little bit high, but probably where the actual tree is not too bad, and I think I actually want it, so rather than that way with this branch moving backwards and this one coming too far forwards, I want to move it round. So a couple of the key things at this stage of proceedings, you're trying to nestle it into the pot right. We're looking at the angle, and I think maybe still a little bit more that way. And then you're looking at the branches. I probably want to bring it round again a little bit more, so that when you're looking at it from front on, this branch is coming towards you and this branch is coming towards you. The trunk isn't coming straight out of the ground, so the trunk's got a bit of an angle to it, which is nicer than just straight up. So we've got an angle to the trunk, and then it comes back the other way, and we'll have a bit of a mound on this side and then maybe a bit lower on that side. You've got a decent sized root here, which might be a feature because it's kind of holding to the ground with the tree moving that way, but it's something that might need to come off later on if it's not really fitting. So, and the other thing is position in the pot. You usually aim not to have it right in the center, so I've moved it to the side so that it's coming off to the side a little bit. Add some more soil. So it's got plenty of room to move on this far end. And it's quite squeezy on this other side here. Most of it in. When you've got something that's more of a potting mix, you don't really have to do a lot of working in with a chopstick, but a little bit of working in helps out. The idea of working in is that we're making sure that our potting mix goes all the way down into the crevices in the roots, Make sure that it fills up all the empty spaces, doesn't leave any air gaps where there shouldn't be. The more I look at that root there, the less I'm happy with that. So that's going to be sticking up the wrong way now with the angle that we've got. So I think I'm going to take that out. So I've probably removed more roots than what I was planning to when I first started this process. We'll see how that goes over the next few weeks. Just tidy up some of these roots that are now sticking straight up out of the ground at the top there. Just take them out of the way. We can tap the side of the container, make sure that it's settling in. And then, working a little bit messily this afternoon. Apologies to anyone who likes to work in a really neat and tidy way. It's not used to doing these videos. New thing for everybody. A bit more on here. A bit more at the front. So generally when you're repotting, so you can see without tie downs that there's some movement there, and just some of those roots that I removed, which is not ideal, so I'm going to have to be really careful with this. Try and cover up the roots that we've got there, and then the aim is to just keep your soil just below the rim. You can use the edge of your root rake if you've got a root rake, just to firm that in on the edges. Means that the water then stays inside when you water. So that's probably it for now. Perhaps a little bit of a rush job, apologies for that, but I didn't want the video to go for hours and hours. Some of those steps you would want to take a little bit more carefully, a little bit more slowly than what I did. But we've repotted off to the side a little bit, leaning towards, so generally leaning towards where your main branch is going, looking to get that first movement out of the soil, not straight, not perpendicular, and then moving away, but then moving back towards that general direction that way. And with this one, using the soil as well, so I don't mind a little bit of movement in the soil, making it also do a similar sort of thing, heavier on this side, but then moving away to the right. So I'm going to give that a really good water. I'll probably even put it into a container of water to sit for a while to make sure the potting mix is all well and truly wet, and then make sure that I don't put it out in direct sun for the next few days. Not that we get a lot of that here in Tasmania, or it's not quite as fierce just at the moment, but you want to look after it for a little while after you have repotted. So the idea will be to take care of this one for a bit, see whether it survives that repot, which was a bit rushed. But if you take your time and do it at the right time of year, think about those things like position in the pot, placement of your tree, getting some movement happening out of the soil, and then in something like this oval pot, making sure that you are not dead center, and try and see if you can make the whole composition move in a particular direction is often a good one. Alright, thanks everybody. Often questions in the chat are often useful. Don't forget you do not have to repot at the moment, so repotting at this stage is probably not the best plan. We'll see how this one goes. Check out that idea that natives don't mind being repotted in autumn, and hopefully she survives. But you don't have to. Just show us what your tree looks like at the moment. We won't worry about what the pot is. And all the very best. Not long till the end of the challenge. Been a pleasure. Thanks everybody. Shall catch up with you sometime soon. See you later.